recognizing the risk of human extinction, would it value our law rules and products of humanity when pumping in we when extinction rules are the end of others that the value light and uphold of generation, second degree regulations, and acts of your bodily security concerning every other ethical theory and disorders of itself. There's epistemic water, and also life is ready, certainty, or preventing that all humans maintain some philosophical innovations about force to drag to the life of all future generations of it, and the larger magnitude than anything or pragmatic to see effects that exist forever into the future, private to base what's under access to rights that can't be sleeping innovation, academic research, all records, but any alternative economic insurance, civilization, that's the definition of our framework, John 18. Extinction is the market for the app is good as we're recognized only by nations can use the higher civil rules, pretty so hierarchy and solve by our knowledge by Krishna as well. The Seven is the only reverse one I get as a reason based on passion and empathy, distance herself, and extra enterprise is attached to lead us a meal hall 19. Sorry, no, 9. Private collection of values, legal organizations, support programs, that's the plan. The United States has substantially reduced their military presence in the Asian based in Turkey, advantage of nuclear security, the aftermath of which over 7 kilometers of Major League has made the best of the base, called vulnerability while turning 23. American TWs are vulnerable to a number of military rules and capabilities in Europe, as you know, that engineering security national culture uses unable to enable the weapons representing 19. The peace goals and initially have serious security and involving electric clear and water and the right hand is ISIS and never really resolution shows that it was always really the American extreme high risk of relations of the organization also divided over the degree of the is by possible single but nobody else in the house of the Olympics and dirty bombs and articles of nuclear retaliation and the impact of the bomb is local 18. Stealing work in the guys running all those areas return member when you're like trying to move vulnerability current security measures don't solve because it's a 19. After getting the theory using all the relationship they were the name of revolution recruitment and advantage. Sweden, there's always another concession with Sweden membership in the NATO, not the ideal of our Turkish parliament is only over the foreign affairs committee has approved that the entire General Assembly has never once making noise of the emperor ceasefire and a 16 deal by day 24. Approval of recipients in Russia, the executive remains of Russia, the European government, this way, the European remains of the German British Service, the German is the region, so we don't know the British Republic, and as I don't give, love to see where approval of being against the MC deal, to the application, so many, and I got to use our national forces, they don't see the plans, and a sort of central trust, Russia, Turkey, into operating freedom, that don't give our political life, and plus 1923. This secretary of life security, that Turkey was on our drivers, and then also you'll see this one, and the because they do applications, something Russia, the generation, there, and whatever, they go on, they see the original defense side, they were, why do you do that, November, the alliance, the battle of Iraq, the children, the Russia, US action in Russia could have made Latvia, Lithuania, Lithuania, that was lucky to close the river, region, England, and Russia, the Eastern Shore, transport the region, and native grams, and educated by the and first make them critical to Alliance 23. The bodies of the United Kingdom, Russia, the Eastern Shore, the Irish, and so you know, go to the sea, but the next one, the United States, with Russia, straight into the allies, the transport of the lives of the Russia, they don't live in the air, the so those kind of Russia, cannot use the United States, otherwise, Russia and Visa Baltics, you know, you see 23. Russia and the Baltics, you know, NATO currently lacks the capabilities for to take over duty geography, force and response of Ireland, Russia could try to resume risking that's calculated the escalation. That's at least 6 around 19. NATO doesn't have the ability to reverse over around Brunei, so the Atlantic of the Middle East, the London's with our series, but the camera of the virus, right here, because of the ground, the under restriction, we must stop seeing these every demand, also push back generals, only everyone expects military presence in the Colonials, every demand of Coppell and 20. After the weather, the magic of one colonial powers go the averages with and magic legal system that begin to refuse it, enable colonizers at Turkey. Cooper 23, for your was already stronger than your Israel, and thumb. I prefer news 1624. US has real anybody, US was and existing air weapons allies are strikes towards the region, 23. US versus working enemies, we have the joy of everybody, cycles, what do you have here? The Alpes was by a region or cyber personnel other planets, but although they don't need to Jewish or either the Alpes also solve the African and Italy rather than the core popular or solve the race Turkey is all collegial society to date. West Asia includes Turkey and races are present in the United States, are by laws and reasons that U.S. military presence overseas and substantially without zero qualification. No word again 14 dictionary defines substantially as without zero qualification materially and realism is true and inevitable are 14. If human rebuttal if you were still saves serious errors and I can lose it one photo after one time you over it out and Halloween and all this and it's they're talking one photos only office and yelling around and it's don't get picture please one is opportunity to all I is has raising insurance planning writing it shipping is concerned we got one area is only checking is something casing for the and our guy one area this was in 6 minutes and 2 years old yeah that's fine crypto cross.
Alright. What's a nuclear terrorist?
Sorry, what?
What is a nuclear terrorist?
I don't know. What's a nuclear terrorist?
You don't know? Your Gal 18 evidence cites nuclear terrorists. What is that?
It says the United States has a perception that there are nuclear terrorists right now. Not
Wait,
that
so
nuclear terrorists is a
no...
threat that we're claiming. We're saying that the United States,
Wait,
perceiving that there is a threat of terrorism right now, will cause a nuclear strike against the hostage state of said perceived nuclear terrorism.
The Gal
we're not saying that there is nuclear terrorism.
The Gal 18 evidence says there is a nuclear terrorist scenario involving them stealing nuclear bombs. Are you saying that's not what the AF is saying?
Oh, you mean the unhighlighted parts of the card?
What?
We don't defend unhighlighted parts of the card.
So you don't think that, okay.
No, I am not claiming that there is a nuclear terrorist scenario.
Interesting. All right, the Krishna evidence, it says that we should counter colonial IR through, quote, the poetry of non-national ways of being. Is he out for that?
Again, that's not a highlighted part of the card, but additionally, this author talks about how there are different means through which we can decolonize IR theory, POSIS being one of them, however, also opening up forums to contestation of the quote-unquote IR colonial canon.
Wait, can you explain?
Explain what?
Like the word.
Basically, it's talking about how IR as a discourse is embedded in foundations of colonialism, but that doesn't mean that every future discussion of IR has to be colonialist. Instead, we can have debates where we imagine hypothetical worlds involving policymaking, so long as we first and foremost recognize those assumptions and recognize those histories behind our discourses. That results most often for critiques of international relations.
Wait, so recognizing that IR is colonial means that IR is not colonial?
Not necessarily. So recognizing is the first step to sort of denouncing it, because most of the reasons why IR is colonial is because it papers over its history. It tries to conceal or hide the fact that it was founded on colonial, action. So acknowledging that it was founded on it is, yes, a huge step.
If we recognize that IR is colonial and then we continue to do colonial IR things, how does that stop colonial IR?
This is saying that the reason why IR is colonial is because, once again, it is concealing and papering over its own history, but foremost, beyond
what we materially do and say matter after recognition?
What we say materially do and say matter after recognition?
Doesn't matter.
I would say that, yes, our policy action matters.
So what we do impacts if our theorizations of IR are colonial or not.
What we do as in our speech acts,
yes, what we
practices,
do
or
as,
what
yes.
we fiat?
Yes.
Which is
speech acts.
Our speech acts?
Yeah.
Not insofar as we have the initial recognition, which resolves any offense off of the speech acts. Now, the discussion of fiat and the hypothetical plan is a different question, but just purely off of discourse, the recognition resolves that offense.
Okay. I'll send the documents on the case. Colonial. Cool. IR is a role science designed to create sustainable visions and paragraph 19. IR also in kind role science field the possible DOD money, rape violence, racism, climate change demonstrates how benign hegemony is now planet crumbles, or most significant investments of every nation fail to account for current apocalyptic condition, cynically make the same recommendations, catastrophe, after catastrophe, cannibalism, engineering, encouraging part of a grand experiment to see if sustainable empire is possible, core principles and realistic concepts displace as subterranean bombs, geopolitics, mutates and refers without regard to order, practice, collective violence goes on as a kind of sustainable warfare. The bomb is not simply a weapon, an image constructed by the global north to reproduce a global hierarchy and thus global crisis growth 14. Pure specialization of destructive capacity of a singular device. It is only packaging conventional bombardments concede all. That's when nuclear weapons headline further reduced suspected of WMD despite the US violation nuclear warheads outlaw certain ways that I have more after the capital than others among them privileged global low probability high magnitude impact gain intensity because concerns like hunger and drone attacks are not a concern from the perspective of millions. The invasion, the politicization of exotic weapons move threatening the weapons and more threatening the weapons themselves tap into films, discourse, iconic images for so the response to give WMDs a part of weaponized war other crises incapable even if the actual numbers killed far exceed those killed by WMDs. And the theory IR is wrong and racist acknowledgement is the link. Their attempt to mystify military presence, racist origins is nothing more than an upgraded fixing that constitutes the epistemology of white ignorance. Hobbes and do. Liberal deceptions construct progressive vision where racism evaporates our secular racial control marks solidarity Groundhog Day enables periodic black victory rule all backed by white backlash IR discipline and embrace positivist posture through which imperialism thought to have been exercised by explicit racism replaced by cultural racism monism appears socially acceptable barbaric despotisms morphed into rope six colonial denial of sovereignty replaced by conditional sovereignty imperial intervention replaced by civilizing mission first races move white watch this world spouse complemented by the second in which IR events race analysis in like 5 years to be neutral claim that sovereign states are dominant as a form of polity undermined by colonial hierarchy and the impact is increased militarism through techno-scientific management regimes turns case Duffield 16. Liberal interventions reflect a rapid increase in humanitarian development and peace activities. The idea of retreat or withdrawal can be misleading although actors limiting presence aid and research have now promoted this involves new means of recruitment discernible from global stability digitally rediscover and govern the failure of liberal interventionism obscured replacing less efficient terrestrial assemblages presence has been seamlessly swoop for speed and security and voting that adopts a failed IR for healthy dose of pessimism at the end of the world. All we can do is hope to be buried together. Growth 19. Failed IR from negative thinking is an alternative hope to saying source negativity is freedom. The knowledge is useless. The diagnosis learn to die, live, listen to, be together, be generous. How will these ideas become policy recommendation? They will not get over the idea the liberal empire is pragmatically preferable. Demolition may be an affirmative if insurgents can be heard and be buried alive together. And framework interpretation, the one he sees an object of research when you link or dissent to their epistemology is sufficient to negate one predictability and the other introduces 6 minutes off into a 5-second plan text and that first last word into prep and you will get this like catch good and do argument this that propaganda goes unchecked in the world where prep groups enable buying policy when we plug and play files without critically thinking about the research practices that make interrogation crucial to deter genocidal habits. Man, no sport. Objectivity in debate always represented from power doesn't matter what position you take as long as you score points military moralized behind it to assume position are equal face and balance of power debate to call the question of objective purposes neocons who saturate the government learn their disinterested skills in high school debate and revolution debate must occur and interpretation no one error framework in terms of strategy justifies one error research exists in offense and requires intervention to evaluate new 2 error responses always takes debate out of debaters' hands one is he roll ballot checks that in terms of the free speech is robustly tested case. First argument for being an IR scholar is a reverse qualification, but 9 to 5. Expert political literature rarely held a kind of repertoire of self-justification, long-term study 200 and 40 people assess probability in areas they specialize. Will the U.S. go to war in the Persian Gulf? Made 82,361 forecasts. Statistical scholars tell experts for more than if they simply assign equal probability to all outcomes for forecasters and dart-throwing monkeys. Answer information listens for of-pad theories. Dismiss information does not fit with what they believe, and wargaming has no academic value. Complexity and all causes means the absence of mere stimulation of unknowable events. Baptist in 18. American scientists tried to make nuclear war unthinkable, attempt to control the nuclear games had never had a guarantee. Accuracy factors like winds of effectiveness, missile failure, and intractable warfare could now confirm billionaire causality. Nuclear war fought between 2 superpowers never occurred in history. Model deterrence lack real empirical reference and invention. One they did not read it. Impact 2 instability. Even they can't solve their worst mobs attacking the base, and U.S. troops can't happen with or without the plan because they don't remove the base, only the nukes. And 2 thefts of some for years. The fact that they read the same invention almost a decade ago on the college topics to make you doubt Solomon, Syria, and Hamas don't put it on the brink. Turkey has been resolved in Syria for 8 years, and Hamas the conflict with Israel for years as well, and nuclear has insurmountable barriers. Mueller 18. Nuclear groups have limited desire and need for less progress bomb. Requires risky trust foreign criminals transporting highly guarded materials, sophisticated shop moving cumbersome, unless tests of weapon detonation while hiding a surveillance they're trying to disrupt. There's no risk. Their cards borderline evidence. Ethics considered like is superior in certain Green Traffic 19 and the Panda Declaration forced U.S. The Washington Declaration forced U.S. commitment to use nukes in exchange for a non-nuclear South Korea. Panda 23. U.S. Turkey British Soko that despite intensifying no threat alliance use of nukes Washington Declaration reinforces existing turns includes Soko non-pro commitments by certain call software upgrade for less research sold that U.S. nuclear perceptions in Soko that a consultative body nuclear is needed and TNW 12 feeds South Korean anxieties by use of amendments draft 420. B61 counter new prolific dissuading partners from pursuing programs abroad news from internal could wrap up their allies under the American umbrella to quicken the viability of their own arrangements. Washington it could feed calls for nuclear economy and Soko facing growing threat amid worries of the future American press system likely to stay in Sterling and any perceived wavering news commitment causes Soko to build nukes Harvey 19. Alliance extender peace peaceful world critical assuring commitment by extending full range upon loss of confidence security commitments have some allies to accommodation Soko have new capabilities to advance econ with nuclear perceived wavering commitments cause allies to develop nukes and Soko Prolif causes extinction nuclear is via arms race theory 16. No receipt with nukes man is 100 warheads go nuclear Japan follows the way of being in dangerous destabilizing arms race similar to India Pakistan chance of catastrophic conflict greatly increase and they did not read a warrant for eventually they did not read a warrant for why Rule Phoenix causes 22 except Sweden and Russia's wiped out after the one sees key to restaurants one speaks each Piper 22 Ukraine the Piper 22 Ukraine disaster for Russian newly mobilized trained units decimated Russia lost significant equipment trade restrictions inhabit replacement poor leadership tactics politics left their reputation in shambles Russia's economy contract output failing 90% and no Baltics invasion Baltic 23. Just the Russian invasion of Baltic is zero and comprehensible. Russia has never accepted such attack in Baltic store. Any NATO member little gain, plenty lose. Other countries occupy different space and mental map of Russia, like the Soviet West can rule to Ukraine and much of intensity Russia forces are tied down in Ukraine. The Kremlin is no position to open a second fleet from until 30,000 that face Baltic 80% have been diverted. Russia's 11th Army Corps has to Kaliningrad destroyed. Take years to reassemble. Cut the last card.
Sorry, did you read it though?
No.
What was your answer to eval after 1AC?
I said eval after the 1AC.
What?
It's key to reciprocity, one speech each.
Huh?
Key to reciprocity, we have one speech each.
Okay. What are all the links to that IR thing?
Grove 14, Hudson 22.
What do they say? Let's start with Grove.
Grove, yeah, it says that conventional weapons have caused much more death than a nuclear bomb ever has, and the fetishization of the idea of one nuclear weapon destroying all of us is a form of sort of like of Western thinking where the global North only privileges its own demise when we ignore how US bombs in the Middle East have killed like millions of people. That's bad. The focus on like extremely low probability, high magnitude impacts, basically just whitewash other forms of violence.
What's the
The alternative?
Yeah.
Yeah, we think that IR, especially especially realist IR, has failed. We should embrace that and have pessimism.
Why?
Yeah, the Grove 19 evidence talks about how hegemony has empirically been proven to fail. Look at our current conditions. We are in the midst of a climate disaster. Everybody's dying. That's pretty bad. But we continue to make the same like policy recommendations, etc., even after that continue to cause wars, right? And basically the argument that Grove is making is that IR is not centered around the reduction of war or the elimination of war, but rather making war sustainable so that we can continue to subjugate the global south.
Can some things be more, I guess? Actually, that's a different question. I guess, what does your alt do to resolve the problem of colonialism?
What does the alt do to resolve the problem of colonialism? We think that, the growth 19 evidence says that the idea that we're keeping like the United States or any form of empire is like pragmatically preferable for things like resolving colonialism is bad. We should embrace the idea that nation states cannot do anything to help us and instead find ways to survive and resist, like, by ourselves.
Okay. I guess, is there a way to have this debate without IR?
Is there a way to have this debate with, what do you mean with
a topical debate without IR.
a topical debate without IR?
Yes.
I'm confused. What do you mean by IR?
Like IR discourse.
Like, if we're talking about like realist IR, we think obviously yes. If you're talking about
Like,
other
how do we
countries'
have a
IR,
debate
then no.
How do we do this debate without realist IR?
Is this prep?
Yes.
How do we have this debate without IR? We think that we can pretty easily have this debate without realist discourses of things like deterrence and assurances. Rather, we can focus on how U.S. military presence is bad because it's morally wrong. Like, I think that's like a pretty obvious solution.
How long was it?
312.
Okay.
It'll be framework, the first advantage, the K, and then the trick.
Cool.
The trick is at the end of the 1AR?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you said?
Where am I flowing the trick?
Just like in response to eval after the 1NC.
Okay.
Are we good?
Yeah.
The app is more than an object of research where the hypothetical implementation of the plan against a competitor alternative is the only way to prevent the explosion of neg limits. Otherwise, their prep groups can use hidden links which are impotent and impossible to predict and engage with K in the lab accounts mean that it's an object software that is managed by privilege. And we cannot have this debate without realistic discourse because it's the only possible outcome. We do talk about why the app is moral. We just say that extinction is the outcome of moral evil. They don't actually engage with these words. And propaganda is a good thing if it encourages civic engagement. That's the Jurowski evidence. That's the only way that we can actually develop actors that prevent the these risks which are real. That means we blow up the extinction outweighs arguments. Let's go to case. The advantages of claiming where you're going to be putting on nuclear security, mass rights, and Gaza have transformed mentally into a populist political propaganda base where Turkish forces, TNW started the base can be told under some amplified military groups of entering our dirty bomb. That's why if you need to this month lose news entail chaos, terrorist stagnation, cause of nuclear retaliation against the host state. That war leads to extinction. They say security threats, but they don't respond to their trafficking evidence. That's key. Security at the base can be easily overcome. The U.S. needs multiple massive bunkers in Turkey if they want to disable these nukes effectively. They lack the proximity and capability to do so. And even if the detonation launches a possible TNWs can be disassembled for parts to create a dirty bomb. Let's go to the South Korea turns. It's not talking about actually none of their parts are specific to Turkey. That's because these bombs at these bases are not deterring South Korea. There are bombs everywhere. The Rikers and TNWs. That was in the one you see the Greece and Jordan bases. Check. Let's go to the IR camp. Start on the thesis of IR holds of the imperial, then every debate on this topic will do so. Again, this debate is now about whether or not they're all competes with the app as something that is less imperial. Then the scope Cooper takes this out. Imagining the world as legal system is key to reduce the power of active colonizers considering more recent violence. That is the frame through which you're going to be evaluating the case. They all cannot resolve any of the linkers or offense on the case, which really quick, let's do the link, no links on the Hobson evidence. This assumes that we say that racism disappears, referred to cross. I said that the acknowledgement is the first step to decolonizing IR, and that's a good thing, but not that it resolves all of their offense. You can refer back to cross. The plan still matters. The hypothetical post-biotic limitations can still be racist, but they have yet to prove that it will do so. That means that the thesis links are resolved and on growth. Whitewashing other forms of violence is not something that the app does. Remember, we start off the 1AC by talking about the colonial foundations of the app. That acknowledgement does do something. Policy may continue to cause wars, but we can reduce the chance of war. Other countries are still imperialist. That means that they're all just never actually going to resolve the fact that the world is still going to be imperialist. And once again, it feeds into the reason why you're weighing this debate on which side is less imperialist. Go to the perm do go via the app in resist colonialism. If we prove that the hypothetical action of the app doesn't link the K of the IR discourse in itself is wiped out by the Krishna evidence flow that through. It's dropped all their links about ignorance and upholding the state or universality, but that when you see recognizes the imperial foundation of our discourses to decolonize the IR and their thesis links are inevitable on a topic like this. The only reason that IR is bad is because the paper's over something else. We say no from the 1AC. The app is moving in towards the right direction. All over slippages between the app, the link, and the perm do both. Perm double blind either all results of links or the links are inevitable due to link turns. First, we withdraw, which is a negative state action, decrease of militarization as physical presence. You're weighing between the troops you see in Turkey right now, which is proven, it's guaranteed, versus the hypothetical, imaginary, the what-if chance that we redeploy the same number of troops elsewhere. Again, the material consequences of the plan is never going to lead to more imperialism. There is no war for this coming at the NC. Second, extend the Erdogan and Kowalski evidence. It also goes dropped without the plan. We feed into the colonial expansion of Turkey into other regions. Turkey is going to invade other regions. That is colonialist. But sees Fiat all we did the work in the 1AC proving that Turkey is more colonial. They want to encroach on other regions. And third, you can turn it Soviet invasion of Baltic states as a clear instance of colonialism, reproducing structures of territorial grabs. If there's a list of risks that the app resolves that often, then our method is good, and you cannot reject our methods. Go to the argument that we have to reject IR, essentially like your PES method. Pessimism is really bad, and it is offense. All of our authors point to the fact that it forecloses bottom-up moves for the groups that they support and groups that actually try to decolonize IR. Again, decolonizing IR is always going to be better than this one-off attempt to sort of reject it in every instance, because this one debate round isn't going to epistemologically create that much of a shift. Rather, we reproduce an epistemology that is decolonial, and it starts with the deconstruction of the foundations of political as a stage where change can take place. Go to the trick. Evaluate the debate after 2 ARs. Same think that compensates for the 13 to 7 minute time skew. They don't weigh the time skew versus the reciprocity. Think the reciprocity doesn't actually lead to fairness, because the debates are always going to be reciprocal. You're not going to be voting on this evaluate after the 2 AR.
Any independent reasons to affirm?
No.
Response to Socoturn was just not about interlink.
How about interlink and an extension of the basis increase in Jordan checks? any of the like solvency page was 69?
Well, it's going to be the K, then the turn. Hidden case.
I'm good. Cool.
Anybody not ready?
And to reiterate the order, it was the K and the K.
Hidden case. Oopsies, you conceded no one-air framework in terms of meta theory means I can't wait. Their interpretation have been read in the one EC sandbagging in the one-air allows one-air research that recontextualize offense makes it impossible because we don't have a theory to contest to air recontextualization, which requires judges to eventually determine the validity of new to air arguments. Continue to weigh intervention is the worst evil takes debate out innovator's hand, which while every other skews rectifiable by good debating draws greater that's key to deter them from future abuse. No two-air paradigm issues. It's infinitely new and there's no way that we can predict it sandbagging and this is cold continue. You can submit your ballot right now. The case. Kicking the K, we'll concede the permits to test the competition, not an advocacy. It was conduct, they never asked, and conduct was good. Testing the effort, multiple angles is key to education and the disad proper. First, defense is terminal and mishandled. There is zero risk of their case solvent. There's no nuclear. One is political will. Terrorists don't want to go nuclear. It's about unpopular risk losing their position and exposing leaders, which is a risk that they don't want to take. That's a Mueller card. Two is resources. Developing a bomb requires risky security. The risking security with the international criminals, establishing sophisticated technology and financial investments that they don't have, which means that stealing is at best highly unlikely, especially in Sterling. When they see traffic is a terrible card for them. They say security, but their own card lists multiple alt costs. First is a PALs. Nukes are guarded by a 12-digit code that only the U.S. government has, and Sterling in particular has a command disable mode that U.S. forces can quickly activate before terrorists go through layers of security at the base, which means that we can stop we can stop any threat before it happens. And two is effectiveness. Even if they steal the bomb, it's useless. B-61s are old and haven't been properly maintained. Their own 1AC evidence concedes this nuclear technology has an expiration date. It's unlikely that terrorists can forge anything out of it, which means there's zero risk of offense, which means that there's no reason to vote after can negate on presumption, which means that any risk of the so-called Prolif disaster is sufficient to negate. First, uniqueness. One NC Panda is excellent. Assumes that every single piece of evidence they read and post dates. Washington Declaration is the line that said U.S. credibility is strong right now, and recent reassurances for so ensures that there's no proliferation now. But the plan causes Prolif. Officials are paranoid, and only the umbrella provides a devastating response to North Korea attack. Any reduction in presence causes a nuclear link in Soko to consider an indigenous program that undermines arms control and spurs wildfire Prolif. That's Harvey, and they say it's not about Sterling. Obviously not. Obviously not. Pulling nukes from a key regional ally gives South Korea the perception that they are next, which means that there is no way that they can trust their own security agreement. That's a Stratford card. Read it after round. It specifically cites in Sterling B61. They did not read any of the evidence in the 1C doc, which means that our link is more specific than any of your evidence, specifically contextual to the plan. Second, the Greece and Jordan check argument. No, it does not check. Our link is massively specific to in Sterling specifically triggering the Sterling specifically triggering the link says that Soko is on the brink now, which means that any sign of the U.S. pulling out of assurances means that Soko believes that they are next to come, which means that there is no check, and the dissent outweighs and turns the case. First, the pan-Soko Prolif causes extinction, they get the bomb fast, causes an unstable regional arms race, draws in China and North Korea, kickstarting nuclear war. That's a carry card, and that turns case one in instability. U.S. non-Prolif makes allies feel comfortable and hampers hotspot escalations. Prolif magnifies escalation risk by introducing new and unregulated destructive capacity. And second, it turns the planned new nuclear states undermine the credibility of every existing arms control agreement. The NBT, CT, BT, TBNW are all destroyed if Soko develops, which are the foundation of norms behind postures and agreements, which means that nuclear war is more likely in the world of the plan because there's no deterrence mechanism. And third is young arsenals. Few states are inherently destabilized because they lack political and military experience to manage NC3 and ease aggression, which makes misguided more likely. No adversary will trust the plan because they perceive that we reverse it in crisis. China and Russia are offensive realists. They're driven by power, not nuclear buildup, which means that there's only a risk of the dissent. Here's how the round plays off. They put two responses on the Soko Prolif dissent. Both of them were defensive. Insofar as the link turns case, any risk of the link is sufficient to negate independently. The shell was conceded. Yeah.
We'll take the ones right now. NR for work. There wasn't enough work done on this in the NR for you to drop it. They dropped the word for drop the debater. It wasn't in the doc, and I didn't drop it. They didn't weigh it. What?
Sorry about that. I wasn't ready.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did not hear you. Oops.
Bro.
I guess I just spoke for you, Josh. My bad.
Oh, no, you're good. Sorry, I was waiting to get the card first. Okay, yeah. Nah, I'm sorry. You're good.
Okay.
My bad. I'm good.
Everyone's good?
Yeah.
Okay. Start on no NR for work is not a voting issue. They dropped the word for drop the debater. It wasn't in the doc, and I didn't drop it. They didn't weigh it against the we get one NR theory. And let's go to presumption. If you buy that this route comes down to presumption, there are a few reasons why presumption goes to the one, the NC is the active of the strategically developing conceded arguments outweighs on reversibility since linking the AC to the NG hijacker. A layer was the average, the second and test, and second is empirics. Most people flip negative lens. I show some people know that negating is harder, and third, negating is the happen multiple different ways, but I have hands of plain text, and fourth, they have a 13 to the rebuttal advantage, and two and collapse, meaning negative proof boost, any layer into more weighing 5 to 1 gets strategically collapse to the most uncovered layer and explaining it in depth, so the debate is close means that 2 AR did the better debating 6. Next, 6 arguments, when we have 2 means they have more time to generate 2 arcs independently. These are all reasons why you're going to be affirming all of presumptions as they pointed out, and let's go on to the case. All of the defense was responded to. They're flowing the rank like crazy here. The incentive for terrorists is mass chaos and destruction, not survival. The risk of retaliation for punishment isn't going to deter radical militant groups. Look to the past suicide bombers, and on the PALs, this is a new response, so I get a new one. PALs only delay and don't solve a rebound scenario as well. Or NID. Some don't have to be alerted enough to do our program analysis, only just actually out when it's say accurate and neighbors are without a but even if you don't buy that, you can extend the proximity analysis. It was very clear coming out of the previous speech because it's essentially saying that the U.S. isn't close enough so that these security measures, such as including HALS, does not solve for that. Let's go into the arguments that the B-61s are old. No, my evidence says that the fighter jets are old, not that the bombs itself are old. That means that they cannot be deployed internationally. They cannot be launched against another state, but they can still be detonated domestically, and that is the first response. And the reason why you're not going to be buying the Prolif D8 is because these bombs cannot be detonated against another country. That's why South Korea is not feeling deterred and it's not providing unique assurance. And secondly, you're going to be extending that the bases in other countries throughout Europe are solving their RB61s and TNWs, which is what their cards are talking about throughout the entirety of Europe. And the point you outlined one of their cards that actually talks about interlink and is not specific in, even if they do have cards talking about interlink, B61s are B61s. There's no reason why if bombs can travel the same exact distance that specifically it has to be at that base. Once again, the risk of the app happening and the unique fact that the security measures are weak and there are like propaganda and there are like riots at the base right now proves that there is a unique risk at Interlink and in Turkey for these to be stolen and for there to be a nuclear terrorist scenario, and the risk of that outweighs. There's once again no reason why the deterrence is unique. I guess let's go like more onto the Prolif. They talk about how deterrence has worked in the past, but no, the uniqueness is specific to the mass riots because of Gaza, and that is why it is a unique risk in recent months. And additionally, they drop the fact that like security measures are not enough because of the fact that the U.S. still needs bunkers. What this debate comes down to is presumption. All of the warrants, they did not give a single warrant for why presumption negates. Presumption flows aft. If there's no offense on the substance, then you're going to be defaulting affirmative. And on the there's not enough weighing in terms of the risk of the turn actually having a response to the militarization, like the advantage. And yeah, like once again, deterrence is tracked by like other factors.
Congrats.
Yeah, correct.
Good debate.